You say there are 5 steps to manifesting. What are they and how do they work?
The 5 steps are very simple. Know what you want. And then 2 is to trust that there is a partnership there. And so you've put the order in, the order has been received. And so you can begin to relax and not try to micromanage it. And then the 3rd step is to receive it. It's like a kid that knows they're going to get a red bicycle for Christmas. I mean, they don't sit there, oh no, I don't think I'm going to get that bicycle. No, they're going to get that bicycle. And then the 2 second steps are notice when your energy's out of alignment. Watch your energy, keep it positive. And then number 5 is go back to number 1. Go back to what you want. Well, it's been a little while. Maybe you know more about what you want, so put that order in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Karoleen Fober with us on the show today. Karoleen's an intuitive who reads energy to help others thrive. She's developed simple, powerful tools that blend manifesting techniques with divine intervention. I'm eager to uncover how we can all use them to turn our dreams into reality. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now, let's go chat with Karoleen. Karoleen, welcome to the show. I'm so delighted to have you join us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Terrific. You say intuition is often misunderstood. What exactly is intuition to you, and what are some of the biggest myths about it?
Well, I believe intuition, everyone has it. I believe it's our God-given ability to connect with the spiritual realm. And it's a natural system. I believe that our creator created all the systems, just like our breathing system, how we digest food. And I believe we're souls. We're spiritual beings in this body for a while. So this is our natural language. This is our primary, our original language. So it's exciting to, invite people to reconnect to that if they've kind of let it go back on the back burner.
So you think all children have it too?
Absolutely.
We come in with it?
I believe that. I have read about somewhere about the age of 6 to 8, where a lot of kids give it up. We're not culturally supporting it. We're not always talking about it. And they're learning. They're learning how to read. They're learning how to do math. They're learning a lot. And so that particular system kind of goes to that back burner. It'd be just like a child that's growing up in another country. Then they move, let's say, to the United States. They're learning a new language. And that old language, if it's not kept up, doesn't go away, but it does recede. And so that's part of my work is to help people reactivate it.
That's a great analogy. I'm going to poach that. I'll give you credit. But that's a great analogy. I find that I agree with you, everybody comes in with the ability. It's just a matter of enhancing and developing it. And I find too that little children shut it down because the adults in their lives say, oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That's not really real, whether
Yeah.
that be a parent or a grandparent or a teacher. And kids even get grief from their own friends saying, well, what do you mean you're talking to Charlie? There's nobody there, just because that child's already shut theirs down. And so the child that is seeing the quote imaginary friend Charlie is still able to see them. And so we just shut it down. Is there an age that you found that people are interested in kind of refreshing it, renewing it, revisiting their intuition? Does there seem to be any rhyme or reason to when that comes about?
Well, I would say when it's brought up, it's like refocusing on something. And I mean, I've been working with clients for over 25 years. And when I talk about their intuition and when I talk about it, I see a recognition, and it's almost like I don't have to explain myself too much. It's almost like everybody doesn't talk about it. But when you bring it up and you invite the subject, oh, now we're talking. And that's where people say, oh, I had this divine intervention when I was, 25, or this happened. So the connections are always happening, but I believe people even forget them. I forgot several of mine. Writing
Mhm.
a book, my book, Opening to Divine Intervention, really brought all of my stories out. So that was an aha for me. So I really understand when people don't lead with it, or they might be a little slow, but eventually I've never had anybody. Um, well, I did have one person, and she just refused to, admit, and then I said, "Well, I don't buy it." I said, "I just can't believe." She was probably in her 60s, 70s on up, and I said, "I just don't buy it. Anyone who's lived this amount of time, I can't believe that you don't have something amazing that happened to you that you just can't explain." And then I just got quiet, let her go through her memory bank, and she said, "Oh." And I said, "Oh, what?" And she told me about when she was 8 or 9, and her mom gave her letter to mail. And so she went down the street, mailed a letter, and a man in a white van drove up, opened his door, and said, "Come, I wanna show you something." Well, there was no one around, and she heard very loudly, she heard, "You are in danger. Run." And she did. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I mean, this is a potential life-saving connection." And she had forgotten it. And so I just really think that, any age we can be reactivated and reconnected. But I do believe that, let's say when you're done raising the kids, and, people are busy. When you're busy and distracted and going from one event to the next, it may be difficult to get your message, or pay attention. But, everybody I introduce it to, oh, we have a conversation going, and it gets very interesting.
I agree. I think a lot of people are afraid of it
Yeah,
because they don't we've been so inundated in the evil spirits and that kinda nonsense. But the other thing that I find too, Caroline, is when somebody loses a loved one and they really have the desire to know, is that all there is? Isn't that a song? Is that all there is? And and also they wanna know if they can communicate with that spirit, and so they use somebody like me or like you who has really honed our abilities, and we have a conversation with that person. And research shows that that's one of the best ways to heal grief, is to be able
absolutely.
to communicate with their loved one in spirit. Oftentimes, I'll have a client call, and there'll be 4 or 5 other family members on the call because they all
Yes,
wanna talk to grandma, and they all have
yes,
their own questions, and they are all validating the information that they're getting, and oftentimes, they'll ask if we can record the conversation, and we will, and then I'll get an email from them later, and they'll say, "Oh my god, that was so healing." So I find
yes,
that that's a catalyst sometimes as well.
yes, and I believe almost every life event, especially when there is pain, it can be a health issue. Um, a parent, a family member's health issue. But death for sure, it totally, brings the moment because people miss their loved ones and they wanna connect.
Mhm. Pets too, they wanna connect with their pet spirits.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. I laugh because the pets come in with this great guidance. I say, "Did you get that kind of guidance from your dog when your dog was alive?" And they'd say, "Heavens, no." I'll say, "Yeah, it's interesting what happens when they're in spirit form, isn't it?" Can someone really use intuition and manifesting to double their income and free up their time?
Absolutely. We've many of my clients over and over. It's basically, I mean, the principles of manifesting were given a divine energy system. Speaking of systems, I call the divine energy system the great system. It's where everything happens, and so your pure desire for something. And I mean, I have people when I first start working with them, they go, "I'd just be happy with 10%." And I say, "Well, I don't get out of bed for 10%." I mean, I like to be light about it because you're going to put the effort in. Why not go for, big goals? And so it's truly about, thoughts or things. We know that. We know the science now that everything is energy. So it's just a matter of what it is somebody desires and then stay with the, let's call it the system rules so that you actually do get what you want. And I found most people get what they want or better if they stay with those beautiful, positive, and confident, feelings about what they want. And then they don't worry about it. You know, um, Manifesting, if we go into that subject, is, I mean, it can also almost be instantaneous if you've been wanting it for a while and then you just get serious and say, let's have it now. Um, and then you just let it happen. One of my favorite examples last year was I had just written the book and it was published, and I was walking through my house one day and I said, "Oh, this book needs a major newspaper article or it needs a major magazine article." And so I just said, "Great, bring that on." And then, you get busy and do something else. Well, 10 days later, um, I was called and emailed by the senior editor of Woman's World magazine with over 6 million subscribers for an intuition article.
Love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
So that's where it just gets really interesting, and that's what I do a lot with my clients is really manifesting. And, then I always say, well, if you understand how manifesting and intuition work together, that's the trick, because manifesting is moving into that energy system, but then the intuition is where you're going to get some messages. Might say, call this person now. So they're very connected. A lot of people just think they're doing manifesting, but they're not, they don't really acknowledge that, oh, your intuition system is working as well to guide you.
I think you and I wanna do a deep dive on manifesting and intuition here in a few minutes. But first, I think you bring up a really, really good point, and that is you wanted a newspaper or a magazine article, and you asked for that, and then you let it unfold
Oh,
on its
yeah.
own. You didn't say, "I need an article in the Wall Street Journal," or "I need an article in Time Magazine, and I need it by this date, and I need it to be this long, and I needed to cover all of these topics," which I think a lot of manifesting programs teach to be super, super specific. And it's been my experience, and it sounds like that's what you're doing too, is you put what you want out there and then you let God, the universe, your angels, your saints, your deceased loved ones, all of them bring it to you. And I have found, and I love your take on this, Caroline, is I have found that when I do that, it arrives in unimaginable ways because I hadn't thought of these ways that it ends up manifesting. And it seems to be easier and more elegant and smoother when I do it that way instead of being very precise. Like, I have to do it this way, and this person has to show up right at 8:07 PM on Thursday night, the 12th, that kind of thing. What's
Yeah.
your experience with that?
Absolutely. I've learned to trust and surrender because, um, you know, I I'm busy. I have a lot of things going on. I'd like to read. I'd like to watch a movie. I mean, I'm not going to force this manifesting desire to the ground by any stretch of the imagination, because I've learned and over time that, like you mentioned, I couldn't plan that any better. I mean, how many hours would it have taken me to try and track down I didn't even know about Women's World magazine. I'd never read it. I thought it was a fluke. I thought, "Is this a and she was beautiful, and yeah, we had our interview. So, I love, getting the gift almost like you have to unwrap it a little bit, like, "Oh, wow, that is." I love being surprised, willing to be surprised by our spiritual team and the divine energy system. I mean, wow. It's like Christmas every day. It's
Well, and you have a business background and so do I, and we're taught
yeah,
you gotta have your business plan and you gotta have your measurables and you gotta be looking at all of the charts and the graphs and the growth and the not growth and all that nonsense. And nobody ever follows a business plan, ever. Not even the biggest companies on the planet because stuff happens and things unfold in ways we can't imagine. Have you found that to be the case?
absolutely. And I mean, the entrepreneurs I've worked with, their biggest issue is boredom. They're doing everything over and over and over again. And I'm a former financial advisor. So, I mean, I get that. And yet, we are creative beings. So, if you're going to have a great moment, moment by moment for the rest of your life, oh, you want this to be fun. You want this to be the most interesting day you've ever had. So, I I think that's why clients love working with me is because it's so darn fun. I go, "Wow, what are we gonna do next?" And we just start getting a little crazy there, in a good way. I really don't put limits on things, and I that's my job is to guide people so they don't drive this beautiful entity off the road, so to speak. Stay on that road and I mean, you're gonna go into beautiful places and get things that, um, you could never have micromanaged on your own.
Right. Or imagined. I find
Exactly.
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So I
agree.
never I mean, you know what it's like, I love every day. I feel like I'm a kid because and I think this is the fountain of youth because I feel like a kid. I feel like, "Oh, who am I gonna talk to today? How is this, podcast gonna go? I'm gonna get to meet Julie Ryan. It's gonna be so fantastic." So, yeah, it's a great way to live.
Mhm. I agree. I tell people all the time, I feel better at 65 than I did at 25, both physically and also from a joy perspective. It's just a joyful life that when we allow, to your point earlier, spirit to help us and show us and guide us. Certainly we have things that we want to explore and experience, but then, okay, let it unfold. Let's follow the breadcrumbs and see where it goes from that standpoint. The other thing that you mentioned is being in a state of joy. And I find in a lot of the medical intuition and energy healing work that I do, Caroline, the interesting thing about that is spirit is hilarious. And they'll come in with these crazy analogies that are images in my head. Like, I may tell you your elbow looks like whipped cream or something nutty. And they want us to laugh, they want us to have fun. And yet, when we envision those crazy things, it helps integrate the healing into the body because the body's going to follow what the brain shows it. And there isn't a human frame of reference for this healing stuff that we're doing that's energy medicine. Heck, there isn't a frame of reference that most people have when you cut yourself. It's not like we're seeing every cell attached to another cell and another cell, and another cell. Before long, you have a scab, and then you're watching the skin grow underneath it, but we know that the body's gonna heal and that skin is gonna heal eventually. That's our frame of reference. But when we think about it, we don't really watch it happen. We just trust that it's gonna happen, and you brought that up earlier, and it's a really good point for that. So, Spirit has told me over the years, because it was embarrassing, frankly, some of these images, I was embarrassed to say, "Okay, your elbow looks like whipped cream," and I thought, "Oh my god, they're gonna lock me up." But Spirit says we're supposed to have fun, and fun is a high vibration. Joy, love
Totally.
is a high vibration, so we're in connection with Spirit when we do that. Sounds like you have basically experienced and witnessed the same thing.
Well, absolutely, and I remember the few times that I had a cold. I rarely am sick anymore because I'm just not interested in any spending any time on it, but the couple times I have been, guess what I did? I mean, I continued with my client calls. I was watching a comedy. Why? Because I know that we are supposed to feel better and that our job is to find ways to feel better. What do we do with babies when they start fretting? Oh, we're on it. We're like, we check, are they hungry? Do they need their diaper change? But then what are we doing? We're we're singing a song. We're patting their back. We're helping them feel better. And that's what we really need to do now. We need to be on our own happiness, our own bliss, and feeling better. And it doesn't mean that we might have pain or even difficult situations that we're frustrated with, but it is our job to align our energy, to take we can control that. We can say, well, it's not that bad. I'm actually going to go read this great book. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to have a great moment. And it's great moment after great moment. And I love it that you're a medical intuitive as well, because so many people, I believe, with the fears, the disappointments, where the negative energy, the negative thoughts, even the negative words, it's drawing more to you. That's the manifesting. We're like these people magnets, and it's truly almost, I mean, it is science. We are attracting how we're feeling. And so that's why it's so exciting, to help people with their well-being and maintaining their health and healing, because I mean, it's been modeled over and over and over. Jesus did spontaneous healing all the time. And so, and that was the invitation. He said, everything that I can do, so can you, even more. So I get excited about things like that. I remember when I read it and I thought, oh, Jesus was not kidding.
Yeah, exactly. And when you mentioned babies, it reminded me that every baby comes in happy. Babies are happy. That's our natural state. To your point earlier, unless they need to be fed or burped or changed or whatever, they're happy. They're smiling, they're singing, they're happy, unless they're in pain or something needs to be addressed. And that's our natural state. And we lose sight of that just because we all get so stressed out from everything that we've been taught that we're supposed to be doing and accomplishing in our
Yeah.
day-to-day lives. I
Yes.
think that's important for us to remember and just look at it. Look at a bunch of babies. They're
e-
happy unless
Exactly.
they need
Well,
something.
and then as adults, it's almost like we separate, well, you're gonna do that for a baby, but you won't do it for yourself. We we really have to incorporate self-love. And I remember Louise Hay. I mean, I fell in love with her book and her all of her books, but the metaphysical healing, what you're thinking is very powerful. Thoughts are things. And so I remember the first time I really used that book, and I must have had some little, you know, problem in the office, years ago when I was a financial advisor. So I must have gotten really tense and really stuck. Anyway, I could barely drive home. I could hardly move my neck. And so I get home, I call my sister, and she goes, "Well, remember that book, Louise Hay book I gave you for your birthday a couple years back?" And I said, "Oh my God." I crawled out of bed to get it. Stiff neck. And, there was an affirmation, and I just said, it was something about safe. It was about me being stubborn. I mean, we have to have a little sense of humor, don't we? I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I think I was a little stubborn there." And it was like, "You're safe, you know how to be flexible." And so I said it like a couple times. I laid down. I woke up a couple hours later. It was as if that neck ache had never happened, and I couldn't move my neck. And that was I mean, where I really tested it out. I was in my 20s when I did that, and I thought, "Oh, this is really exciting." So I am just a big proponent of, helping people. It really is simple, and that's what I love about it. I do say, "Well, it's not rocket science." So there's, "Oh, yeah, it is rocket science, and this is science too." Um, but it's so simple, we just act like it's like, "Oh, no, it has to be 2. That's too simple." Get stuck in our left brain where everything is so logical, and we have to have the 20 reasons why and prove it to me, and I go, "Oh, really? I don't wanna go through life like that." So, if I try something out and it works, that is the acid test, and I think that's where people that you and I work with are so relieved to have people that have not been afraid of it or stopped being afraid of it, let's say that, and started utilizing all these gifts that we've been given. And they're so powerful and they're free and there's no harm. So it's such a win. It's such an invite. It's the most beautiful invite we could ever be given to connect more deeply and um, really strengthen all of our intuitive abilities. It's just truly exciting.
Say more about no harm.
Well, I mean, I will say if you've got a major problem and injuries or whatever things, they can be, I'm not saying they can't be painful, but what I'm saying is when um I work with somebody on an energetic alignment, I don't always use the word healing, um but I'm fine with it. But I love energetic alignment because that's really gets down to it. And I mean, that doesn't hurt. It's like, "Oh, you've got this situation. Well, let's just do an energetic healing. Let's focus on everything being healed and surrendering that." I mean, was there any pain involved there? No. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And I learned long ago that trusting in the most highest, most powerful energy in our world and our universe um, is a good thing to do. And so I'm not saying to not use doctors, but I'm saying don't leave the doctor, don't leave the big doctor out. The uh, the creator that knows all. Bring that in, and yeah, utilize everything that you need, but certainly bring in the most powerful energy possible.
Some people are afraid of bringing in negative energy when they're working with spirits. And my experience and what I teach is all spirits are pure love, pure joy. You can't do any harm when
Yeah.
you're communicating with spirit. And they'll say, "Oh, but what about all those evil spirits?" And blah, 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 blah. I go, that's how you interpret them based on the fear that's in your head, based on your human frame of reference. Spirit's pure love. Spirit's never, ever, ever, ever going to do anything negative or harmful to a person. It's not going to happen. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I'm glad you brought that up because I agree totally. I mean, and I remember what it was like to be, frightened a little bit of this because I really, I hadn't had experience with mediumship until after my mom died. But I realized how much I had been helped. I hired a medium after my mom died, and it helped me so much. And then afterwards, she said, "Well, you're highly intuitive. You're just like me." And I said, "I don't think I'm just like you." But it was a beautiful invitation, and it never left me. I said, "Well, if I were, what would happen?" And then the big voice, the Holy Spirit came to me one night and said, "Do you want to see, the deceased?" And At the moment, I didn't. I was like, "I don't think so." But I started thinking about how much I had been helped. I was so sad that unless I was with my grandkids or working with clients, I was in bed almost for 2 years. And so but I began to trust. I asked, "Is this fine?" I just began to see that it was a divine a divine, gift. And they're all divine gifts. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. I always say, well, if there's some growth that you might have to do, that might be a little painful at first, but, um, then we can also switch gears and really invite growth to be beautiful, like, we don't have to be so frightened. And I mean, I get frightened of new things that I haven't done before. We're human, but you find out pretty fast that, "Oh, that was kind of fun."
Well, we're afraid of what we don't understand or something new. We're afraid of change just as humans. Let's change directions for a minute. You say there are 5 steps to manifesting. What are they and how do they work?
Well, this is from Abraham Hicks, and the 5 steps are very simple. Know what you want, your desires, number 1, and then 2 is to trust that there is a partnership there, and so you've put the order in. The order has been received. And so you can begin to relax and not like try to micromanage it. Now, I will say you can pay attention to your intuition and see what maybe there's a book you're supposed to read, or maybe there's somebody to call to help you with something that you might want. So there are will always be action steps for your part, but the order's been put in, it's on its way, so to speak, and your job then is to stay, um, very pristine and confident about it. So step 2 is just allowing it, and then the 3rd step is to receive it, and, it's like a kid that knows they're gonna get a red bicycle for Christmas. I mean, they don't sit there, "Oh, no, I don't think I'm gonna get that bicycle." No, they're gonna get that bicycle. And so the 3rd step just kind of opens the door, and you can get busy and forget about other things, but that door is open. In other words, I'm not sitting there going, "Oh, no, I don't know. What am I, crazy? Am I gonna get this article?" No, none of that. It's like, "Yes, don't know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be great, and it's perfect time." So those are the 3 main steps, and then the 2 second steps are notice when your energy's out of alignment. Notice when you're, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna get it or not." When there's any negativity, doubt, fear, angst, anything about what you want that's negative, you want to watch that. You're a little police person. Watch your energy, keep it positive. So that's the 4th step, is notice when you're out of alignment and you're getting a little scared or negative. And then number 5 is go back to number 1. Go back to what you want. Well, it's been a little while. Maybe you know more about what you want. So put that order in. So it's just a beautiful cycle and very simple.
And when we're out of alignment, if I remember correctly, Abraham Hicks calls that the wobble.
Yes, there's lots of names for that.
Wow.
I always say, "Well, you're in the mud puddle now, okay."
And what happens when we're in the mud puddle and how do we get out of it?
Well, notice you're in the mud puddle. You may not even notice, you're so frantic, but somebody might come along and say, "Oh my god, you're really off your rocker." Um, a little bit, okay? Here's a Kleenex. Come on over here when you're ready, but don't take too long. And with my clients, I like to have some fun. I'll bring out my timer, my egg timer, and I'll say, they'll come to the call crabby or something. And I go, "Oh, okay." I said, "Hey, I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. You can say everything negative. I don't care what words you speak, and go." And I just watch them, be ridiculous, and they start laughing, and they go, "Oh my gosh, why would I waste time on that?" right? But we forget. And so a lot of this is to go back to the essentials. You really have to understand when you're in negative energy and positive. And we're smart enough to do that. 5-year-olds can do it. So it's really on us. I remember when I started to be a coach, Thomas Leonard, one of his beautiful teachings was 100% responsible for your life. Now, that doesn't mean 99%. That means, oh, yes, 100% responsible for your life, which essentially is what you do, say, and think. And that all goes back to in what are your beliefs? So, a lot of times, we're going to dig for those beliefs and we're going to upgrade them because then when you have better beliefs, it'll be easier to think, speak, and do from those better beliefs.
I agree, 100%. What led you to research and teach this stuff? Did you just wake up one day and think, "Oh, I'm gonna dive into being a medium"? You said after your mom died that that was a catalyst, but what was your journey to get you to where you are now?
I think I was this kid that paid attention. And I grew up Methodist. I loved I loved the whole thing of prayer. I felt so close to what I was being taught as God, and I felt it. And I believed it, and I was praying for real things. I'm sure by the time I was 3. Um, uh,
What does a three-year-old pray for? Extra
well,
cookies or
you pray for lots of things. I lived on a farm, so there's lots of things survival that you're dealing with. And, my mom worked in a bank, started when I was 2 years old. So I was praying to get through the day just so that things, could work. And, so little things, like, I'm gonna pray that, mom brings home something good to eat, little things like that. And I trusted that, um I was listening in church and Bible school and Sunday school. I was asking questions. So it piqued my interest. And, um, and then I realized it's like when I saw animals and I saw things growing, it just deepened everything. And my dad would say things to me. He was my first manifesting teacher, and he said one day to me, I suppose I was like 5 or 6. He goes, "Caroline, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line." And I didn't really know what he's talking about, but I never forgot that, and that is a brilliant, visual of understanding, bullseye living and bullseye manifesting. And so I was just that kid that really loved it all. And when I was 8, I was in a group of people on the playground, and this kid was telling us about what he had done that weekend. And then he said, "And you know what happened after that?" And I told him what happened after that. And he looked at me, and I looked around. Everybody else was looking, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well, I thought everybody knew that." So I think I was just somebody that paid attention. I'm highly sensitive. I hear really well. I have to watch, sunlight. I sense things. And
what do you mean
so,
you have to watch sunlight? What's that mean?
well, if the sun is so bright, I mean, it almost hurts me.
Mm.
It's kind of like my husband he can go outside and hit something on his leg, and he can be bleeding from 2 spots on his leg. I'm looking at it horrified because he doesn't even feel that. And I tell people, I go, that's why, I'm not interested in illness because if I get a cold, I feel like I'm 10 times in more pain than everybody else. So I think I am highly sensitive. Um, but it it taught me that I kinda went underground a little bit. I didn't answer so many questions, but I knew a lot of things, and I wasn't gonna let it go. I certainly didn't wasn't gonna put that on the back burner because it felt empowering. So imagine being 8 or 9 and knowing things, like, I know when dad's coming home, and then he's there.
Speaking of prayer, do you think that prayer is an ancient form of manifesting in that when we pray for assistance with something and then we just let it go and trust that it's gonna materialize in the perfect way, that it's an ancient form of manifesting? Here's what made me think of it, my dear friend Perdita. To do this. Hey, dad, I need you to do that. Grandma, can you help with this? Uncle Charlie, can you do that? And she said, without a doubt, everything she asks for materializes. And she doesn't spend any time worrying about how it's going to happen. What does she need to do other than just request? And whether we're praying to a deceased loved one or to God or the universe or the Holy Spirit or a saint or an angel or a spirit guide or whomever. Is that what's going on, do you think? And also, is that what meditation is? Are they the same thing?
I'm I'm not sure they're the same thing. I think they're in the same, obviously close to the same system, and so, yeah, I mean, I think manifesting is definitely, it's a desire, it's a request. But meditation, I believe, is where you almost become one. It's almost like you're connecting to the source, connecting to divine energy, I guess I would call it, where you are connected and that you're perfect. You come from divine, so you are a divine being as well. And because we were created. So I think, meditation is more the act of becoming aligned. And when you're aligned, it it kind of gets all the chaos of the day, the noise, the distraction, the arguing that people do, the inner turmoil, the doubt, all of that negativity. M- Meditation allows you to become, it just cleans it all up. So it's just almost in a neutral state so that you could go positive, you could go negative. But the neutral state allows you to open up and um and take care of all that negative resistance and slow everything down so that people can maybe reactivate that connection so that they can sense it, they can know it, they can feel it, they might be able to see it, they might be able to hear it. However the messages come, it helps us get to that place where we're plugged in. We are plugged in.
I think of prayer as requesting and meditation as receiving.
Well, and that's why many times we'll receive amazing messages either while we're meditating or afterwards. Many people will wake up in the morning and, like, I remember working on my book, Opening to Divine Intervention. It was like I would go to bed wondering about a couple pieces of some decisions to make with the book, and there they were when I would wake up. So it's it's sometimes it's our terminology that we focus on, and it's interesting, and I don't get too far into terminology. It's helpful to communicate. Um, but it to me, the focus is on the receiving and the gifts, and are we paying attention to receiving information that we're meant to be given?
Don't get stuck in the weeds. In other words, I say that a lot. Don't get stuck in the weeds. Just let it flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Let's talk about your book. You say you've had more than 450 divine interventions. What's a divine intervention?
A divine intervention for me is an experience, a happening, a message that you do not under it did not come through the physical world way. It's a spiritual, message.
Also, in your book, you list 15 different types of divine interventions. Can you tell us about some of them?
Well, yes, I call all of them miracles, but then I thought, well, when you're talking about certain instances like, seeing an angel, having a dream, having a premonition, it began to be important to me because I had so many after I started writing them all down to keep them all straight and to actually again, that's where the definitions came in handy because I could say, "Have you had a dream?" to help people name some of these experiences that they were having and that I was having. So,
Mhm.
and, the 450, I think I stopped adding them really succinctly probably 5 years ago. So now they're happening all the time. And they were probably happening all the time before, but I pulled out maybe the ones that really got my attention. But so everything's a miracle. But I look at divine lessons, and sometimes an experience, a divine intervention experience, is more than one. So maybe it is a dream or a premonition, but it's also going to be a divine pivotal moment in your life where suddenly you're not that same person. And I tell people that once you've had several, and especially some big experiences, maybe life-changing experiences, you can't go back. It's not like you didn't have them. 'Em. They're undeniable. And that's what started happening with me. In my 20s, I started saying, "I'm having these things," and I started calling them all divine interventions. But so, manifesting is one, prayer, um, divine creations, I mean, art, a poem, a song. Dolly Parton they said she's written close to 6,000 songs,
I know.
and
Is that amazing?
they just
Yeah,
come to her. So,
right.
it's a gift. Um, and mediumship is an example of divine intervention, a near-death experience, which my mom had. Deathbed visions. Lots of people are with their loved ones when they are passing, and so they watch their loved ones. And my dad had a deathbed vision right before he died. I was just going into his room to say a goodbye, and I saw he was looking. I mean, and he had the most beautiful look on his face. He was so happy. He was just like that. And I backed out of the room because I did not want to interrupt that for him. It was like it felt like to me that either loved ones that had passed or angels were coming for him. And he died about 8 hours later.
Well, 90% of people at the end of their lives see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets, and that's validated by university-based research. 90%.
Yeah.
And here all these years we've thought, "Oh, grandma's hallucinating." Grandma ain't hallucinating. She can see
Mhm.
those loved ones' spirits that are there. Did you have the opportunity to ask your dad what he saw or who he saw?
No, because we were going back to mom's house. We were saying goodnight. He was in a nursing home, and that was the last, time I saw him alive, and he died at, around 4 o'clock that next morning.
Can you give us some examples of some of the things that you've experienced out of those 15 categories? Tell us some of your stories.
Well, the 15th category I called natural phenomenon because it's kind of with our natural surroundings, and when I was wanting to get this book read, I was given a divine reading 25 years ago, January 15th of 2000, that I would write a book and it would be important for the world. And there it is, opening to divine intervention. And of course, I had no idea. I was in shock. But I did. It wasn't, it was significant when you're told something like that. So it was on the burner a little far away while I was busy with work and all of that. But I knew that I trusted that I would be given information along the way. And about 17 years later, I thought, well, I really still don't know. So I'm going to start writing down all these divine interventions that I had. And I came up to about 50, got on the plane to go to Florida, and I'm at the same desk I'm at, and I'm looking at that list, and it was like a gold thread that was alive and pulsating, was connecting all of those 50 stories. And that's when I just said, "Oh my god, this is the book." So, um, in the book, the one my stories that I guess were so significant about the book was when I was struggling with how to write a book. It seemed so big. And one day, it was January 1st of 2018, I was awakened early, and I got up and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna get to see the sunrise." So I went out with my camera, took about 12 pictures of the sunrise, and I put the camera down and I was just enjoying being outside. And I heard, um, "Keep taking pictures." And I thought, well, by this time, I follow all the messages if I can. So I was started taking more pictures, couldn't see anything significant, um, put the camera down again, and I heard it again, "Keep taking pictures." Well, I took 42 pictures that day, and as I came in, I my husband was awake by that time, and I went to get some coffee, and I said, "Oh, I took these pictures of the sunrise." And so he's looking at my pictures, and then I get my coffee, and I'm looking, and he's on one, and I said, "I need to see the camera." Well, there was a picture of my face in the sky,
Oh my.
and I didn't see anything because it was so shocking. It's like you see it, but then am I really seeing it? And then I just said, "Oh, honey," I said, I didn't say anything about what I said, "What do you see in that picture?" He goes, "My God, that's your face. There's your glasses." And and then we kept looking at all the other pictures, and they s I saw it was like a Jesus coming down to the sky, kissing almost the sky and earth line. And then, um, I saw, uh, Fober, which is my last name, Fober, in letters. And then there's a picture of the word SHORT short, and another one STORIES short stories. And I knew that that was a gift to me, that I would be writing this book and just tell the short stories that have happened. And it freed me up. So that was a real gift.
Okay, so you can't throw that out without giving us more detail. When it has your face, and is it in a cloud formation? Does
Yes.
it look like a sketch of your face?
It looks
Is it
like my face.
transparent?
It looks like my face. You can see glasses. I was wearing cat eye glasses like I was wearing in, like, 6th grade. Um, but it was you could see my face. It it's like I recognized myself right away, but I thought,
But
"Okay."
but was it superimposed on a cloud or something, or it was
Yes,
just like
it
a sketch of your face in the middle of the blue sky?
it was like a photo of my face. It wasn't a
Oh, in
sketch.
color or black and white?
It was in it was in the shadows of the blue and the white, that you can see, in the sky, like clouds and the blue sky. And, well, when my husband saw it, I knew I wasn't speaking, and, it just shocked me. And yet there it is. And, so
Well, how about the words "short" and "stories"? Were they written like a plane would write in, the
yeah,
white smoke
it
stuff, or
it was almost like they were in white. They were in white, almost like little white puffy letters, cloud-like letters. And I kept looking at them. I go, "Oh my god." It says, Stories. I thought, stories. And then I saw SHORT and I went, oh my goodness. And keep in mind that the sky is always moving. That's why I was taking pictures continuously. So that same area was showing me Fober. I got a picture or two of that, and then it disappeared, and then it was short. I got a picture of that, and then stories. So the whole sky was moving. The sky doesn't stay the same, and so it was, like, unbelievable. I got all of those 42 pictures. 12 are of the sunrise, and the rest are of those the things I just shared with you, and I knew that was a divine message to me to help me because I was struggling with how, to write the book.
Did your husband see the words as well?
Yes.
Wow. Yep. Did it freak him out? What did he
No,
say?
because, after you I'm sure
He's
your
he's used to
husband is
hanging out
used
with
to.
you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, to know somebody that's been doing this a while, and he does it too. I mean, he has premonitions. He found our house. He said, "Oh, we're gonna move." And I go, "Oh, no." But he found our house in Iowa, our current home in Iowa, and he had a premonition, and it was like, "You are going to move," and I did not wanna move because it's a lot of work, but he said and then he had it twice, 2 times coming home from work. So, see, this is what's so exciting. That's why everyone I talk to, I ask them about, "Anything interesting happened to you?" And the next thing I know, "Well, this happened," and so I don't know if Gary would have ever felt like he was getting all these divine interventions before, but maybe just because I was talking about them a lot and I was using a pendulum. I mean, I took a healing touch course and learned how to use the pendulum and the healing, which is taught all over the world, by the way, in major hospitals in the art of healing using a pendulum.
My husband, Tim, people say to him, uh, "Did you ever think that you needed to run the other direction when you met her?" And he said, "Yeah, I was a little concerned at first, but what really convinced him that I could do what I said I could do was he had a bone spur on his foot, on the bottom of his foot, and I said, "Well, can I do a healing on it?" And he said, "Yeah." So he thought I was gonna give him a foot rub, which I did. And he was laying on the couch, and I was giving him a foot rub, and I said, "Okay, I can see where the bone spur is. I'm removing it." It is, of course, it's spirit working through me and
Sure.
with me to help facilitate healing, and he tells this story way better than I do. He's got this deep Southern voice and the accent, and, he's a great storyteller. So, he I'm looking at his butt energetically, and I said, "You had plantar's warts." He said, "I don't have any plantar's warts." I said, "No, but you did." I said, "I can see where they were burned off." And he said, "I was in the 5th grade when that happened. I was 10." And I said, "Okay, I can see where they were removed." He tells the story. He says, he thought, "Okay, there's more to the story than meets the eye here, because there's no way that she could have known, that I could have known that he had plantar's warts on the bottom of his feet when he was in the 5th grade." And he said that was the thing, and I find that too with other loved ones, like my brothers. They would just roll their eyes and say, "Yeah, yeah, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever, woo-woo, voodoo, whatever you wanna do." And then when they'd ask me to do something and I would nail it, and there's no way I could have known what I was telling them. And then, and now who's the first one they call? Is their little sister. Say, "Hey, can you check this out and see what's going on?" So, yeah, our husbands and mine has become very, very intuitive too, and he'll say, "I just listen to what you say," and
Yes.
how to pay attention to the information that comes in. So, they can't help themselves when they're living with us, right?
And you've hit on something that I think is very powerful in that there's so many doors that get opened when people really need help, when nothing else is working, when there's a desperation point. And and so it it I remember hearing that, so many they say so many guys in wars, they don't believe in God or they won't admit to it. But when they're being shot at, they're praying. They're praying.
God and mama. What
Yes.
their mother and their what God.
Yes.
Yeah. Back to Tim with the bone spur. A week later, he went in to see the foot doctor because he was scheduled for surgery and they were gonna go in and cut it out. And they did another x-ray on it. And guess what? The bone spur was gone.
All
So
gone.
he said that cemented it. And
Yes.
he knew that there was something legit going on there. I love that. All right. Last question. Why do we incarnate?
Well, I mean, I think that we we love to evolve. We were designed to evolve. And I believe that's why we all come is to to grow and experience things, especially on earth in this physical world. You have the dualities that make it very interesting. Um, One time I saw a picture of a dog with his head out of the window in the car, and, the wind and his little tongue hanging out and the wind blowing his ears back. And the story was like, this is why we come. We come for the time of our life. And and so I think maybe there's also something that we're drawn to evolve with as far as spiritual growth. I think, that's what I'm hungry for. I think that's why I think so many people this has now become more mainstream is because more and more people are waking up. There's no denying how you feel about certain things. It's there's books, there's TV shows, there's podcasts about it. It's becoming more safe to admit, "Oh yeah, that was your experience, your real experience." And there's nothing like real experience um to prove to yourself um that something, miraculous just happened. So, when I talk to people that, "Why can't I see my face in the sky?" I go, "Well, I mean, are you looking up?" I mean, see, I'm talking up. I'm looking up all the time. I talk to my spiritual team more than I talk to my husband. So it's a major, thing, and it feels so good. It's a wonderful way to live knowing that you've got you have a spiritual backing, that's gonna help you, and we're all gonna die, um, or transform, let's say, because they say, energy doesn't die, it just transforms. So incarnating into another body is falls in line with even the structure of science.
Beautifully said. Thank you for bringing all of this to the forefront with the divine interventions and calling it that because most people say, "Oh, that was a coincidence." No, it wasn't. That wasn't any coincidence at all. That was your intuition at play. It was your gut feeling. It was divine guidance, divine intervention at play. And I love how you've put them together in your book and I love your categories. Of course, you're a linear thinker because you're a numbers girl by training. So it's nice to add some order and it makes it easier, I think, to navigate when you put it in that kind of an order as you have in your book. How can people learn more about you and your work?
Well, I'd love for you to get my book, Opening to Divine Intervention, on Amazon. Uh, KaroleenFober.com, KAROLEEN, F as in Frank, O, B as in boy, ER.com. And I have a free intuition assessment if your listeners would love to take that. And there's other programs there.
All righty. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. We'll have all those links in the show notes. In the meantime, we're sending everybody lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama, mwah, and from Florida, too, where Karoleen is. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your family and friends.